No. No.
All right, thanks, Bill. Good evening, everyone. At home and in person.
Go running or what?
Kathy or Steven?
All right, folks at home are muted now. Welcome to the Monday, December 5th Board of Select Board meeting. I almost said it out of habit. I'll call it to order at 7 o'clock, and we stand for our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we have a handful of announcements and board openings tonight. Historic District Commission, 2 openings, one for a Board of Realtor and an at-large member. Our Conservation Commission has 2 openings. Hamilton Housing Authority, 1 opening. Our Human Rights Commission, 1 opening for someone on the Housing Authority. Our Hamilton Environmental Impact Committee has 5 openings currently. By the end of this meeting, we should have a few less. Hamilton Council on Aging, 2 associate member openings. And last but not least, our Hamilton Finance and Advisory Committee, 2 associate member openings. And right now we have a public comment section. Anyone who is joining us via Zoom, if you'd like to speak to something not on the agenda tonight, just raise your hand. And if anybody's in person, just please come to the podium and state your name, and we'll go from there.
Don't see anybody from Zoom.
All right, seeing no one coming forward, we'll start with our select board reports. Anybody want to start tonight? Tom shaking his head yes, I think. Tom?
Nothing for me tonight, thanks.
All right, Bill, anything from you?
Nothing to add, I think we all went to the combined board meeting for the school budget on last week, so I think you can give a quick update on that, but that was a big event from last week.
Yeah, big event. Caroline?
Nothing to report. I did see the lights up at the gazebo.
Yeah, lights
They
up.
look lovely. It looked like there were some bonus ones over by the
Yeah,
pool.
on the shed, yeah.
On the shed. So
Look how
kudos to
festive we are.
DPW for getting those up after our,
The shed wanted to be festive, so.
Yeah.
I mean, I was actually thinking as I was driving by, like maybe a giant star would be nice on top of the
There you go.
gazebo. So if anybody's here is looking to donate a giant
I think
star.
we're trying to
that's
resist putting anybody on the roof of the gazebo.
You know what?
Just trying to, I think we're gonna try and soft walk that.
Oh, right. He did say that the roof is
Roof is in need of repair. That's why
scratched
there's
on the star.
no lights.
After future repairs,
Maybe we could just have someone stand there
Just stand
with
there.
the star. We could take shifts. Something festive.
Cherry picker.
Yeah.
That's it for me.
All right, Jamie?
I don't have anything this week.
Nothing really for me, just we had the 5 boards meeting last week, on which the school committee and the 2 towns kind of presented our budget numbers at kind of first glance. We're kind of really getting into the thick of the budget season here, so there should be some pencil sharpening on kind of all fronts. And hopefully the school committee can lower their number to help us out and win them out a little bit, so we're not in override territory. But other than that, I think that's all I have. Joe, town manager report stuff?
yeah, just, a couple new things on the report this week, just that, bring it up here. So the town's annual holiday celebration for employees and volunteers will be on Thursday, December 15th at the Community House, beginning at 1 p.m. Obviously, the select board is all invited, as are many of the other boards and committee members in town. The Hamilton Police Department's annual toy drive for the Shriners Hospital is going to take place on Saturday, December 17th. That's the Stuff a Cruiser event that is always a big hit. And we have this year on the calendar, International Human Rights Day at the Hamilton Wenham Library on this Saturday, the 10th. Offhand, I don't remember what time it starts, but
I think
Human
it's
Rights
at
Commission has some information on
10
the website.
or 10:30. Jamie, is that right?
Oh. Yeah. Go with 10.
10, I
Let's
think.
say 10 to be
About being
safe.
around.
So a number of great events planned there in recognition of International Human Rights Day, and just trying to help promote human rights awareness in the town of Hamilton. So hope people will participate in that.
All right, thank you, Joe.
Did we update on the master plan?
I don't know, but I'll update. We've re-energized our master plan steering committee, added a few new members at I think our last meeting. And we had kind of a kickoff event to bring us up to speed with the new consultant. And that group is meeting in December. I forget the date, but they will be planning kind of our public outreach in the new direction and taking stock of what we have and moving forward to close that process out in the next probably 6 to 8 months with the new consultant. Did I miss anything?
No, there'll be two public engagement activities with the new consultant, with one tentatively planned for early January, but the date is still to be determined by the Master Plan Steering Committee.
And not to confuse planning processes, but the Patton Park
Planning
thing
Committee.
is also, what, next week?
I'm not really sure.
Good question.
It's a good question. I'm not,
Is Tim online yet? No?
No, I got it right here. I think it's the 13th. Yeah, 13th, 6:30 at the library.
Tuesday,
So-
6:30 at the library.
Tuesday at 6:30 at the library, the master planning for the
Patton Park.
Patton Park, which is different from master planning from the town, even though they are related. All right, do we have Teresa?
Yep, she's on.
Oh, hi, there she is. Hi, Teresa.
Zoom?
We have a update from our Council on Aging Director, Teresa Woodbury, tonight. Hi, Teresa.
Hi, how are you?
Good. What have you got for us tonight?
So just a quick update, we're wrapping up open enrollment. It started October 15th and runs until December 7th. I have met with 75 individuals since October 15th. And I have 5 appointments scheduled for tomorrow and another 4 scheduled for Wednesday.
Wow.
So, and a couple of phone calls that came in after I left and a couple of emails to tend to as well. So it's been a busy couple of weeks for us. New programming, we combined the newsletter. So we merged with Wenham for just the newsletter. It was a cost-saving effort on our part. It's saving the town about $2,500 a year. So we now have a free newsletter to the town. We just pay for shipping costs. And it is now in color as well, which is great news. So we've gotten a lot of positive feedback about that. New programming that we have is pickleball, which has been huge. People are really enjoying that. We moved it indoors. Last week was the first week that it was indoors, and we're hoping to continue that, working with Sean throughout the winter. Yoga started about 2 months ago, and that continues to take off. We have about 10 participants every week. We've been doing that for 2 months. Our mobile market is up to, I think today we had 45 residents between Hamilton and Wenham attend. So that, again, is also a huge need in town. Tim has helped about a dozen residents with fuel assistance applications so far, and that just opened the middle of November. So he's been busy with that. We have our holiday party coming up, which our friends are hosting for us. That will be over at the community house on December 20th. Trying to think of what else we have going on coming up. We're starting to learn to play bridge after the new year. And then just our regular things that we have going on, our movies, our lunches on Wednesdays and Thursdays, our grab and go on Tuesdays. Things haven't slowed down because of the winter months. I anticipate that they'll be picking up as we continue to offer more new programming as the year goes on.
Great. Any questions or comments for Teresa? Just keep up the good work, Teresa. I hear nothing but kind of good accolades about the programming that you're doing there, and the seniors are really happy that we've got some new direction there. I know you've been here a little while now, but everyone's really appreciating all the effort you're putting in programming and looking at other ways to kind of have joint ventures with Wenham and et cetera. So I think it's all good news from what I hear.
Thank you. I will also mention that we're partnering with the health department, collaborating with the health department to work on getting Sharp Box containers, so that we're hoping to roll out in the next couple of weeks, and offering that to town residents. So that what that will be is that residents can purchase a box from us to put like their diabetic needles or EpiPens or what have you in it, rather than putting them in milk cartons or milk containers. And then they bring them back to us, and we will contract or work with a company to dispose of them safely. So we're getting that program off the ground with Dennis, which is great.
That's great. Anybody else, anything? No? All right, thank you so much for joining us tonight and giving the update.
Thank you. Have a great night.
You too. All right, up next, first on our agenda, we have the fiscal year 23 tax classification hearing and tax rate setting with Assessor Todd Laramie, discussion and vote. And we have Steve speaking first. Mr. Ozahowski, how are you?
I am truly unbelievable. How are you?
I'm great.
Thank you. It is my pleasure to serve as the chairperson of the Hamilton Board of Assessors. I'm joined by a co-member, Chris Campbell. Our third member, Joe Shackman, was unable to join us tonight. Todd Laramie is the principal assessor for Hamilton and Wenham. And the whole reason I'm talking before he speaks up is I just wanted to point out that the tax rate in Wenham has gone down a couple of dollars. The tax rate in Hamilton is going to go down a little bit less than $2 probably. And I would like to just applaud Todd's work, as well as Jane's work and Terry's work, as well as the prior assessor in Wenham, who was pretty good too. But the point is that we're spending more money on the assessing department. And it's paying off because a lower tax rate enhances the market appeal of both communities, of Hamilton and Wenham. A lower tax rate is a nice thing. And the more that we can stay on top of sales and values and making sure that everyone pays their fair share, the better off the assessing department's going to be, and the health of the town will correspond. And if anybody gets their tax bill at the end of December, I just want to remind everyone that the opportunity to appeal your tax bill is January. The deadline is February 1st, but I just tell people the month of January, if you have a problem, get an abatement form, fill it out, and we will review it. And if you are taxed, if your assessment is unfair, it will be adjusted, period. And if it's not, then it won't be. And you have, if you disagree, you have ways to appeal at the Department of Revenue. That's it. So with no further ado, Mr. Laramie, please.
Thanks, Oz.
Hello, everybody. My name's Todd Laramie. I haven't met anybody, so it's nice to finally put a face to the names here. So I was hired here from, I was in Amesbury prior to this for about almost 2 years, and kind of came into the thick of things here. So with the help of the board and Jane Dooley, obviously, she's been great to try to get me up to speed as quick as we can and try to get our values set and certified and get to where we need to be. So I had submitted this. I don't know if you guys got this. It's no big deal. I'm just going to kind of read off of it. So we're here for the classification hearing. The classification is for the select board to determine the allocation of the local property tax to be borne by the 4 classes of real property in class 5, which is personal property, for fiscal 23. In deciding the allocation, the select board must adopt a residential residential factor. The residential factor is used to determine the percentage of the tax levy that is applied to each class of real and personal property. The Board of Assessors applies this percentage per Mass General Law. So the first thing we're looking to vote on would be the open space discount. The establishment of this class of property is the responsibility of the assessors. It includes land maintained in an open or natural condition that contributes to the benefit and enjoyment of the public. Open space does not include land taxable under permanent conservation restriction or used to produce income. The Board of Assessors has determined there are no vacant land parcels in Hamilton meeting this criteria and would therefore provide no taxpayer relief. The Board of Assessors does not recommend a discount. Are we going to vote on each one, or should I
I was
just?
going to say, let's do them each as we kind of go through them.
Yeah.
That's usually works the best. That way we don't get all confused on the end product here. So any questions to Mr. Laramie on our open space classification? Why or what or why we don't do it? If nobody does, I'd accept a motion to vote no on the adoption of the open space discount.
So moved.
All right, second by Caroline. All right, any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, and just to clarify, aye is a negative on the open space discount. All right, Mr. Laramie?
Second to be voted on would be the residential exemption. This exemption would allow a reduction in valuation of each qualifying residential parcel of up to 35% of average residential valuation. Residential valuation would include condos, single families, 2, 3 families, apartments, residential properties with mixed use, and vacant land as well. So because this adoption of such a factor is to be borne within the residential class, the net effect of the residential exemption is to lower tax bills for all residential property valued less than the mean valuation and increase tax bills for all residential property valued greater than the mean valuation. Such an exemption places an unjust additional burden to other residents. This exemption slightly decreases the value of those properties under the median assessed value that are owner occupied. However, it shifts the burden to all properties over the median assessed value, whether they are owner occupied or not. There's a little more, anything I can add, basically, residential, the properties here in Hamilton are owner occupied in the most part. So therefore, the Board of Assessors does not recommend this, exemption.
All right, any questions on this one? Okay, anybody want to make a motion that the Select Board vote no on the adoption of a residential exemption?
So moved.
All right, second by anybody?
Second.
Second by Bill. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it, and just to be clear, an aye means no on this. All right, Todd.
Next is commercial exemption. Similar to the residential exemption, it shifts the burden within the commercial class from small businesses to larger ones. It works by allowing an exemption of up to 10% of the value of Class 3 commercial parcels that are occupied by businesses with an average employment of no more than 10 people at all locations during the previous calendar year and valuations of less than $1 million. Since most businesses here in Hamilton are small, we would not see any relief in taxes with this. Therefore, the Board of Assessors does not recommend this exemption.
All right, any questions on this one?
No, we talk about this every year.
This one and the other one between the
Yeah.
commercial and everything, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so I'll accept a motion to vote no on the adoption of a small commercial exemption.
So moved.
So moved, second by? Second by Tom. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Ayes have it, and once again, an aye is a no vote. All right, thanks, Todd.
Okay, and moving on to the selection of a residential factor. Adoption of a residential factor by the Select Board is required by the purpose of determining the percentage of the tax burden to be borne by each class of property. Adoption of a factor of 1 results in a single or uniform tax rate for all classes of property, while adoption of any other factor will result in both a lower residential rate and a higher commercial rate. Dual tax rate structures are typically found in municipalities with significant percentages of commercial, industrial, and personal property. Beverly, Lowell, Haverhill, those types of communities. However, only 4% of the total taxable valuation of Hamilton is comprised of commercial, industrial, and personal. So for this reason, the Board of Assessors recommends that the Select Board maintain a single tax rate by voting a residential factor of 1.
All right, any questions on this one? Okay, anybody entertain a motion for maintaining a single tax rate by voting for a residential factor of 1?
So moved.
So moved by Bill, second by? Second by Tom. Any further discussion? All right, I guess I only have kind of further discussion. People in town sometimes talk about if we get 1 or 2 larger businesses in Hamilton that will change that tax rate for commercial businesses. And my understanding, just for clarification of people at home, it would take quite a bit of added business, commercial, 10% plus is my understanding,
It
to
would.
get to there, maybe even more than 10% to make it kind of worthwhile.
Yeah.
Am I correct in that assumption?
That is
Yeah,
correct,
I mean,
yes.
that was my question. I mean, so it was a master plan for Gordon Conwell. I've worked on developments where a large corporation comes in and they choose to do it in Hamilton because it gets some sort of tax break. Obviously, the idea of us doing it is to get more tax revenue, but even if you give them a break, you still increase your tax revenue. Is that something they're looking at as part of the master plan, to look at the advantages of doing that and what the pros and cons of that?
I don't think so, because even if we did have, say, multiple entities on the Gordon campus, it wouldn't be enough to swing our needle. And we have the kind of added issue that say we have 4 or 5 big businesses up there, but then we've got 4 or 5 small businesses downtown, we're increasing that rate for them as well. And then that forces the smaller businesses out of town that have been using the residential rate in town to stay around. So that's kind of my understanding of it anyway. That seem about right?
So, yep, absolutely.
So it's part of it, but I don't think it's really being considered.
That's not to say there wouldn't be a benefit to having commercial up on Gordon Conwell. They'd just be taxed at the same tax rate as every other taxable entity in the town. But currently, the entire parcel doesn't pay us any taxes, so anything we get off of it in the future
Anything's better than
will be a
nothing, right?
big benefit.
But in theory, that it could lower the tax rate by having a bigger, getting taxed, if you're getting taxed, more money taxed, and it's a zero-sum game of the budget, if it doesn't, depends on how much, it would cost to run that, but it's a discussion we could have down the road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We should, I mean, it's a viable discussion.
Yeah. All
Especially
right.
because we're not getting money on it right now.
Right,
so.
we're getting nothing because it's an education religious entity. All right, we've had motion, a second, we've had some discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, ayes have it. Residential factor of 1 remains.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you very much, appreciate it.
Todd, do you want to go over the tax rate summary?
Yeah,
real
that'd be
quick, just
great.
to let
If you
people
could do
know?
that last slide there.
As a result of you adopting a tax factor of 1 and understanding what what we appropriated at annual town meeting last spring, what is the tax rate going to be for FY23, Todd?
All things staying the same, the tax rate would be 1634.
So you want to explain a little bit to the board about why the tax rate dropped?
Sure.
Real
Our
quickly.
assessments went way up.
Assessments
Pretty
went
much.
up, so, like I said, I got here in September, and the first thing I started doing was, when we're looking at setting the tax rate for fiscal '23, we're looking at sales in calendar '21, or even further back, depending on the amount of sales that we have. And our assessments weren't even close to representing fair market value, so we needed to get closer to what, the real estate market's been a little bit crazy, but there's a reality in there somewhere. And our land values, we crept up a little bit. We had a lot of land sales that represented what raw land is worth in this town, and then plenty of sales to dictate what a legit market value is here in town. And we got ourselves closer to where the market is telling us where we should be here, so.
How many houses do you reassess per year? I mean, is it every house or a percentage of them or what?
Yep, so, it's mass appraisal, so we're looking at ranch sales. We qualify every sale. As long as it's been marketed correctly, then it's an open market sale, and that goes into the pool. And then we're looking at, you look at ranches in a certain neighborhood and what they're going for, and that sort of dictates the value of those.
So how many houses got reassessed in Hamilton, percentage-wise?
Well, let's see, sales, I looked at probably 200 sales,
Okay.
just in '21 alone. And, again, the pool of the styles of houses sort of ran the gamut and covered everything, and that sort of dictates what the market value here is in town. So you do that every year. You look at all the sales every year. You look at building permits, that when somebody modernizes their house, then that's going to change their value as well. So it all, seems to flow that way.
Has the tax rate of 1634 been certified yet?
Not yet, no.
Not yet. Do you know when that will be?
Well, you guys just voted on the classification, so all things being considered, everything else gets signed off on, we submit it, and it'll be approved. Our values have been certified and approved.
Values have been certified and approved, so we don't need another vote for the select board.
I was wondering if we need
Tax
to
rate.
vote to kind of
Yeah,
validate
now
the
that
tax rate.
Now the classification hearing's been heard, then we can submit.
You can submit all the data.
Yeah,
Okay.
Okay, and then it'll be, and there's every expectation that DOR is going to certify this rate, 1634.
the values are set as long as Alex submits everything he needs to submit, and they go through all their checks and balances with everything, and as long as we're all good with that, then that's our tax rate.
All right, perfect.
Thanks.
Thanks, Todd.
We're all submitted on the finance end. Hi, guys, just so you know. So we're ready to rock now that we have the classification voted.
All right, thanks, Alex.
I'd also like to point out one thing. In FY '24, we have a revaluation year, so we'll likely see more movement on our valuations in FY '24. Every single property will be looked at.
Just to clarify on Bill's question, every assessment in town went up, just about, on the neighborhood. So every assessment in town is up.
Okay.
And then, again, if somebody believes that they think it's unfair or too high or whatever, not if your tax bill's too high, it's if your assessment is too high.
Right.
Then come to us, fill out the form, we'll take a look at it. But the reval year, that's something we need to talk about, because we also need to get to a measuring list. We have to update our records. We have to hire somebody to go door to door and so forth. And that's, again, something down the line. But I don't want to bore everybody. Thank you.
Thanks,
So
Steve.
Is our override, Joe, based on tax rate or total revenue?
The override is based on total revenue, so it's a little bit of a misnomer to talk about the tax rate as having an effect on the override. What happens is, you back into the tax rate. The tax rate is based on what you appropriated to spend in the given fiscal year against the valuation of all property in town. So the tax rate of $15.34 is gone down by $1.54 over last year because we've improved the valuation. So the values went up, so the tax rate had to go out, because we can only raise property tax levy by 2.5% over the previous year, plus new growth. So because of that, and it's more and more complicated the more you're trying to talk about it, but because of that, you've had the tax rate go down, even though we've still raised more money in tax. We're still going to raise more money in taxes this year than we did in the previous year. So
So it's based on the previous year?
yes, it's a 2.5% increase in the levy
Right,
over
some
the
people
previous year.
understand that, right, so.
Yeah, there's
No.
going to be a lot of educating people about the difference between their taxes and their tax rate, because
Right.
most people will probably see the same, if not more,
Yes, correct.
taxes paid, even though the tax rate
Rate
went down.
Right.
Correct.
Your assessment goes up, your taxes go down, but your tax bill goes up.
Yep.
Your house is worth
We
more money.
can't win, Bill. That's the answer.
But your house is worth more money.
Yeah, you sell. Go wherever.
Yeah, yeah.
Here's a lot of Wyoming.
All right, up next, we have fiscal year '23, Chapter 91 Senior Exemption Program limits with Mr. Laramie again. You thought you were out the
Get
door.
back here.
This one would be pretty quick.
Yeah, so this is the local adoption that Hamilton, I'm not sure when it was passed, but this is just, it's just another avenue. The other community I was in Amesbury, was looking for an alternative to what exists through the state. You guys have already, ahead of the curve here, so that's just the specifics on it. That's how you can qualify 65-year-olds or older. There's a household income, income and asset limits that you need to qualify for to enable to receive this exemption. So I know this is for '24, but Jane just wanted to get this in here just to get, because the applications will be going out
Yeah.
sometime early next year.
So the board has the option to increase the age for the program to 70 from 65. It's been 65 in the past. And the assessors are asking that you set the total household income for a single person at $47,520 or $71,280 for a married couple, and also set a total household assets limit of $66,814 for a single person and $91,620 for a married couple. So these are really limits just made to make sure that the program applies to people who really are in need of financial help to continue to stay in their home. It's not meant as an exemption for anybody, but people on very fixed incomes who are trying to get by.
Right. And at one point, I think when we first started this special act, it was 70, and I think we decreased it a couple years afterwards down to 65, based on the amount of applicants we had. Todd, do you know offhand how many applicants we had last year? It's not a lot, but
It's not a lot, but it's,
and many don't qualify with income and stuff like that of the applicants that we have. So it's usually a pretty small number. I want to say it's like 15 or less.
yeah, less than 20, I think.
Yeah. So just to kind of give you
And just to, if they want, you want to increase it back to 70?
no, they're saying that we could if we
They have the option of
wanted
it.
to. We have that option.
Under the special act that Hamilton got passed to be able to offer this program, the age requirement can be set by the select board at 65 or 70 years old.
What counts as a household asset?
Well, just,
Must not include the house.
Not their house.
the house.
Yeah, not
Okay,
the house.
I was like, you would
Right.
never,
Bank accounts,
Everything but
investments.
the house, pretty
Right.
much.
okay.
So I guess, do we want to discuss at all the 65 to 70 increase? Are we fine with 65, or do we feel like we want to change it to 70?
I mean, it seems like we have some pretty it's not like we're using a lot of, I'm sorry, it's not like we have a ton of applications, so it seems like we're not getting a lot. Plus, if it's based on need, I don't
Yeah,
really see where the age.
Right, and I think that's how we felt in the past when we voted at 65. We kind of do this little dance every year when we do it. And I thought, the applicants between 65 and 70 were like one or two or none usually, so we felt it wasn't that big of a stretch to add the 5 years to it.
I also wouldn't
Or
want to
decrease
take
the
it
five.
away from someone who has it.
Right, that was my question. If in the future we wanted to increase it, can we increase it to 66 and then to 67 and then 68 rather than?
I mean, we could.
Just so we don't accidentally write someone out.
Right.
One
And I think the 65 and 70 were just kind of
Good point.
arbitrary numbers that someone put in there at
So
some
year
point.
increments, you don't.
Right, so we
somebody's-
don't cut anybody out the age that year, we give
Right.
them another year on it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
And how are these thresholds set?
I believe they're based on other housing income limits that are set by the state and federal program. So they're similar to what the HUD and DHCD use
Yep.
for their programs.
Exactly.
It's the area median income. So in Boston, it's actually higher than
Right.
it would be in some other parts of the country.
They seem low.
They are for people who are on the poverty line. That's
Well, I know, it seems like you could halo much larger than that, and people would still be very much in need, especially in this town with these taxes.
Mhm.
Like, it just seems like you could have higher
Yeah,
income.
But the more
thresholds.
people you shift into this program, the more you're shifting the tax burden to the people who aren't in the program.
Right. Or the people that don't know about applying for the program, too. They may need it. That's the other thing. I think in years past, we've done something with the COA where we've talked about the Chapter 91 exemption and other programs for tax abatement, as Steve said before he left. So maybe that's something we can put on the horizon here, because I know a lot of that stuff to do with January and February, et cetera, for some of these deadlines. All right. Is everyone leaning towards keeping it at 65? Okay, so I would entertain a motion to have the Chapter 91 Special Act set the age at 65 and adopt the income and asset levels as proposed by the assessor.
So moved.
All right, thanks, Bill. Second by anybody?
Second.
Second by Jamie. All right, any other further discussion? And then we can let Mr. Laramie go home.
gotta go to hockey.
No.
You know,
All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 The ayes have it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, folks,
Appreciate
very
it.
much.
Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
All right, up next, we have
Steve is on.
a liquor license change of manager for Myopia Hunt Club, discussion and vote. And I think we have someone from Myopia joining us, and this is in your packets. And just a reminder, we've got a couple of cemetery deeds in this licensing authority certification that all of us have to sign before we leave tonight. Joe, do you want to say anything about this one before we?
Yeah, this is really pretty standard change of manager certification. Steve has been operating as the manager over there and updating some of his paperwork for the club. He noticed that he wasn't listed, and he put it in the paperwork and did the due diligence to make sure that we have him recorded properly. The packet is in accordance with the state ABCC regulations and ready for you to approve him to be the manager of record for the Myopia Hunt Club. Steve, you have anything to add?
Nope, nothing. I appreciate you going through it.
And enjoying your Christmas party tonight?
Oh, having a blast.
So the only thing I saw is that on the residential address, it just didn't have a city and state.
Oh, Crooked Pond Drive.
Yeah, I don't know, I have any idea what that is, but that's probably something we can take care of right now.
Yeah, Steve, you want to?
Yeah, Boxford, Mass.
Okay,
Thank
perfect.
you.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
No, it's all right, it doesn't actually ask.
It
Just,
doesn't really kind of ask it.
It's a one-liner.
It's a one-liner.
Yeah.
Oh,
All right, pending that, any other questions or discussion? Pretty standard. I'm glad you caught it, Steve, and fill out the form for us. All right, anybody want to make a motion to accept the change of manager or approve the change of manager for Myopia Hunt Club?
Make a motion to approve the change of manager for the Myopia Hunt Club to Stephen Core.
All right, anybody second?
Second?
Caroline, thank you. Any further discussion? No? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it. Thank you, Stephen, for joining us quickly. Enjoy the
all right.
rest
Thank
of
you
your
very
night.
much, everybody. Have a great night.
Hey, Joe, if you can just remind that we typically try to take the social security numbers off of these things.
Yep,
Jesus.
yep, we should do that.
Okay.
All right.
How much of it went out or not, but.
No, good go.
Where are we here? Up next, we have appoint 3 new members of the Environmental Impact Committee, discussion and vote.
Yes.
Ms. Beaulieu is very excited about this tonight,
So
as we
excited.
now can start this committee, now that we have 3 members,
We did have
or
another.
we will
applicant.
have 3 members.
We did have another applicant today. They'll be on your next agenda.
Look at us.
So we have John Simmons, or Jack Simmons. I'm trying to remember the other names here, apologize. Don Perkins.
Emmett?
And, did I miss one?
Emmett Holt.
And Emmett Holtz.
Yes.
And, hi Emmett, good to see you again. Anybody want to make a motion and we can discuss? And I see Mr. Holt is on, he can say anything if he wants to after we make a motion.
Sure. I move that we appoint the 3 members as named to the Environmental Impact Committee.
All right, anybody second?
Second.
Second by Bill. Mr. Holt, you want to say a few words since we've got you online?
I think Jack Simons.
Well, I just looking forward to doing what I can do. I'm a member of the Hamilton Wenham Climate Action Team and wanted to get involved in this to see how I can help out. I live in Two Manor Hill Road and I've been in town since '95.
And we're glad to finally kind of process your application, since I think you were one of the first ones to turn one in.
John was.
And
Oh, John
Jack,
was.
Jack has been,
And Jack, is he online tonight?
he's here
Oh, there
in
he is, right
person,
in front of us.
right there.
Do you want to say anything to us tonight? Introduce yourself, and didn't see you in the corner there, I apologize.
It's okay. Hi, Jack Simons, 245 Sagamore Street, Hamilton. Thank you for your confidence. I think I speak for all 3 of us, probably, that we're very glad to be getting rolling, and I know there's at least one more application in, and I think probably soon there will be more. And my only question is, since we're a new committee of newbies, will somebody give us an orientation and share protocols, so we know how to interact with the town? And
No, just kidding.
thank you.
If you, once you're all sworn in, Jack, why don't you come by and see Lori and I, and we can introduce you to the town clerk, show you how to get a meeting posted, basics on how to set up an agenda, and then
Get your town email, et cetera.
and then you can, if you want one, not every committee member has them, but if you want a town email, we can get you a town email, and then you can go ahead and set up your first meeting to kind of go over your charge and set officers once you have a quorum, so.
Great. I think an email might be very helpful, because I think we'd like to have a lot of citizen engagement.
Yeah.
And do we have a select board representative to the committee?
We have Miss Beaulieu.
This one. I know how disappointing that is for you, Jack, after our
Thank you so much. We're very happy.
No, I'm really excited. And Jack and I have spoken over the phone. Emmett and I have not had a chance to meet personally, but I'm very excited having talked to Jack about his enthusiasm and desire to jump right in, and being a relatively new resident of Hamilton, which I love. to see.
Almost 4 years.
Almost 4 years.
We're working on it. And is Dawn here?
Oh,
So
Here we
I
have
believe
our
Dawn
Dawn.
Perkins is.
Dawn, come on up.
Come on up, Don.
Thank you.
You're the
Introduce
next
yourself to us.
contestant.
Jack,
On.
Jack, your background is very impressive, so we're very lucky to have you as part of our community. So I think the only thing we have in common is I have a BA in chemistry too, but besides that, you outweigh me in all your experience.
I failed chemistry my freshman year of college. Does that count? Can I be in
Sure.
those groups? Yeah, great. thanks.
I failed too. I still am a chemistry major.
Hi, Don.
Hi, I'm Don Perkins. I've been in town a little over 2.5 years, and I'm really looking forward to, I mean, I have a lot of opinions. Some people may not like them, but I really am enthusiastic about working against global warming, and the more that can be done, the faster the slower we'll run into disaster, so.
Thank you.
Good.
Yeah, we're looking forward to, I guess, when you come in and get sworn in, maybe we'll kind of talk about, maybe Joe, you can help them arrange a first meeting date.
Yeah.
And get an email chain kind of started with everybody, and then look at the charge, and Caroline, you can figure out when you can attend.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we should connect, you connected with Vicky separately, but sort of just doing an orientation with everybody about sort of the state of the union as it is now, what things are happening. You know, there's already been conversations even at these meetings about some initiatives, so we can sort of start to prioritize the whack-a-mole stuff, and then sort of the long-term, more strategic priorities that y'all want to start chipping away at. But there's plenty to do.
Yep, plenty to do.
There's a there.
You drive an electric car, so that's good, you're part of that.
Yes, I'll come to the meeting in my electric car to make everyone feel good.
Mine's outside.
Is one of the ones charging?
No.
Oh, we saw there
It's
was,
in front.
there were two
I have
charging.
enough range, I don't need to charge everywhere I go.
That's good.
Show off, all right.
Good.
Thank you,
All
Don,
right.
I appreciate it.
Well, congrats y'all, and thank you so much.
I think you haven't finalized.
Well, we got
No,
Might as well, yeah.
we got to vote.
Yeah.
All those in favor, if there is no further discussion, which I'm assuming there isn't, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it. Welcome. Thank you so much for applying. We appreciate your time and your future efforts. All right, up next, we have, where am I here?
The water abatement.
Water abatement.
Water abatement application for 27 Rock Maple Avenue. Discussion and vote on this. This is in your packets.
Tim Wilson's here if you have any questions, and I believe the homeowner is here.
Tim, if you could give us the kind of 5,000-foot view if you're listening to us.
4,625-foot view.
Yeah.
The 330,000 gallon foot view?
Yep, Tim Olson, DPW Director.
Hi, Tim.
So this was just a leak that went on for a period of time. This was our first abatement with the new policy. So I calculated it the same way I had in the past. And with, you know, I think this is all in your packet, and you'll see at the very bottom where I calculate it. And per the new policy, I think it's section 10, abatements can't exceed $500. So that's without your approval. I wanted you to see what the magnitude of the abatement was, what the magnitude of the bill was, and come before you just with that information and here to answer any questions.
And Tim, correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm remembering from talking to Lori the other day when I was in, this was a leak between the meter and the house? Is that right?
This was
Or is this a different one?
No, I think
The leak was registered in the meter. Yeah.
And the meter was where?
I think, I'm not sure if Valerie can answer that question, but I believe the meter is, it's in a pit. But I know that the leak was on the service line coming into the house for a period of time.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
That's correct.
Hi, Valerie, were you going to say something?
No, I was just gonna say it was, as the document says, it was post, water meter, so it was between the water meter and the house.
Gotcha. And it seems like you kind of discovered it after you got the bill and then fixed it within a handful of days, but my guess it had been leaking for quite a while based on the gallons.
We actually heard the water inside the house, and so we started investigating and shut the water off at the water meter. Had the town out just to confirm that we had it shut off, and had somebody there within a day to start digging for replacement or repair.
I mean, Tim, in terms of
and on my end, Valerie submitted everything, the abatement form, as well as the certification of repair, everything that's per the new policy.
You know, I applaud the application. It's probably the most complete application we've seen this year, but and unfortunately, it's a large quantity. So, Tim, just give us an idea in terms of the other abatements we've done. This is This is almost as significant as the Asbury Grove one we had years ago, right?
That one was quite large.
That was-
Yeah.
that
But,
was-
you know, we've had abatements this large before.
We have, okay.
And this is the first one under the new policy with the max cap on it.
And
I think Caroline and I figured it was 15 to 20
It's-
swimming
yeah.
pools.
40 swimming pools.
40?
It's almost 10,000 gallons of pool. I mean, we're going to get somewhere in that neighborhood, but yeah. a lot.
I'm still, my mind can't,
Grasp
like,
that.
where did the water go?
Well, it
That's
was
the mystery.
There was
It's been over a
a,
period of 3 months, though.
there was a drought this year, so I'm pretty sure the
Just
ground
went
might have
down.
been
But
dry enough.
between, the leak is between the meter and the house.
Mm-hmm.
You're not talking about like from the driveway to the house and like a football field. You're talking about like in that space. It boggles my mind. Like I can't figure out if the meter would be wrong. Even
I mean, there's
3
a lot,
months,
right?
you're
That's what I was
talking
trying to figure out,
about.
Tim. It seems like an enormous amount.
It seems like a mind-boggling amount of water. Even over 3 months, you're talking about like a swimming
Pool
pool
a day.
of water.
A day.
Yeah.
Our
mean,
neighbor
just
have
to-
a
really-
pool and it pops
So
in our
it was
yard every
really
day.
only maybe a matter of a week or so because it was only just a couple weeks before the meter would be read at the 3-month time period. And we live on a hill, so it's like it would have run down and most likely just been absorbed without anybody even noticing.
Yeah, because the place where she lives on a rock maple is kind of
Yeah,
slopes down there, so it kind of makes sense that it just was running down into the ground. But that's just, it is a staggering amount of water.
Well, and then in a drought, nobody was like, wow, there's all this water.
Maybe it just never came up to the surface.
Thing is mine. It blows my mind.
It's we have French drains around the sides of the house, but they basically just go into the. I mean, they don't go into the ground, but because of it's in a wooded area, nobody would even know that it was there.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I mean, and because we were in a drought, it really almost wasn't even making it down to the lower part of our lot that would have turned excessively green
Right.
with all that water.
So Tim, we rewrote the policy just recently, just so we had goalposts, so it wasn't as open-ended, but we left it flexible enough for us as a board to make exceptions. Are you making any recommendations in terms of historical data and what we've done in the past and how this was handled and how the bill's been paid in the past, or are you recommending that we stick with our policy and just do the $500 abatement?
I'm not sure why my camera's all. I'm still here.
You're back.
So, this is, like I said, is the first one that we've had on the new policy. The prior policy did not have a cap. In this case, looking at the numbers, she had a $4,600 bill. If I calculated a normal average, and then add in the difference between the normal average and the usage, like I had in the past, you'd have probably a revised bill of about $2,100 for an abatement of close to $2,400.
Yeah.
So, we're
Plus the
in
repair
years
bill,
past,
right?
we would abate the $2,400.
Right.
But with the new policy we had, I think the select board chose to have a $500 maximum. I'm not, and I believe the policy states that the select board can make a determination on that. I'm not able to do that.
You're not the
So,
deciding authority, right?
But your budget, the cost doesn't limit you. If we decided to make an exception, would it put you financially in a bad spot, or this money comes from somewhere, right? The abatement money comes from.
She just wouldn't pay it.
She just
Right,
wouldn't pay
but
it.
no,
We
but
wouldn't
the
get the
town
money.
would
Yeah,
have to pay,
Right,
make
we
up the
would be
difference.
down on the water.
Right, it wouldn't, it's significant amount of money, but not too significant on our end, when it comes to collections and things like that.
Yeah, I guess I would.
Considering the amount of money that we collect on a quarterly basis.
Yeah, I guess I would caution putting a policy in effect and then not using it. I guess that's my
request
2
here is just
cents.
to approve the $500.
Right, just to approve the $500.
The request here is to approve the $500.
She's not
I mean,
asking for more.
I think there was a reason the board wanted to cap it, and
I just wanted to have a discussion, because
No, I mean,
we
I
talked
see-
about it specifically with the policy, well, what happens if, right? So this is a perfect opportunity to put it into motion.
Yeah, but I also think it sticks with, when we're talking about like the spirit of it is, fixed income senior with a leaky toilet upstairs who didn't recognize it for 3 months. Like, I still think it would be tough to argue that, this is as we discussed, a mind-boggling, unfortunate event, but I don't know if it,
Right.
the spirit of the policy is to pay it all.
To Bill's point, I mean, we do have the language in there, so I do think we need to have at least an idea of what triggers that language. Are there certain factors, because we do have language that says we can go above and beyond 500, so I guess what would it take to trigger that language to kick in? You know, I mean, given the situation here, you know, she was unaware of the leakage, took reasonable measures to repair the leakage and shut off the water or whatever when it was determined that
Right.
found out about the leakage.
I mean,
So do we have?
I can't say that
language?
it doesn't seem to be out of neglect.
Right.
You know, that's something that I look at. We do have some people that are you know, that we have high reads in not having the ability to make those repairs timely on the private end. We do sometimes have challenges getting the private entity to make those repairs. And Valerie and you know, she, in my opinion, did so timely and per the policy. So I just wanted to put that into it, that it seems like she found the problem and fixed the problem. There was a period of time that went by that I don't think anybody knew it was leaking. I'm not sure if she had any issues with you know, with any pressure issues or discoloration, but that sometimes a small leak like that over a period of time, even though it's a lot of water, it wouldn't have any impact to her plumbing or her use of the water inside.
Right.
She wouldn't see the, you know, a decrease in pressure if it's just a small leak.
So I guess like factors.
So they could go on for a period of time and not have any, and no one have any idea until it surfaces, or if it gets larger and then becomes a problem.
So I guess factors I'm thinking of, if the leak couldn't have reasonably been discovered by the homeowner, and if, you know, mitigating efforts were taken as soon as possible, you know, are those factors that we want to consider and whether to,
Yeah,
you know, take
right.
the extra limit? I mean.
You're right, and I agree. I mean, I think the factors, I mean, it's subjective versus objective. I think the reason that I was in favor of putting the cap in place, because we were going to transfer this ability to Tim, right? And so it was like he can approve up to, and if anything bigger than that, it comes to the, I mean, it's kind of one of the reasons why we did the cap, is because we were also trying to just get it off of our plate here of having to review these things. I don't want to belabor the thing, but you know, this is somebody who identified it right away before it was even notified. A lot of times it's on their bill. They were traveling. They didn't pay attention to anything in their house. They didn't take care of the repair. It was a lot less money because of a small leak. But this person who jumped on it right away, got it fixed within 2 days, within 10 days of the leak being, you know. So once again, I think that's why we created some flexibility in it. But once again, I don't know what the right thing is. I'd be willing to, you know, to look at that. But if it's, I'd go with the will of the board. But I'd be willing to say, if it's, you know, if it would have been 2,000 and they were at 500, I'd willing to say, I think with the way this was dealt with, you know, I'd be willing to say it's probably $1,000 abatement for me and split the difference. But based on where we've been for the last 10 years, and also this is the first one, this is the first person that's in this position. But I don't know if we're creating precedent by doing that. So I don't know. But it just seems like a ridiculous amount of water that is not their fault. So not for lack of them doing something wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think, I mean, the policy, I believe, doesn't say, you know, only in extraordinary circumstances are you going to get more than $500. It just says the select board has to decide anything over $500.
Right, that's all it says, yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I'd be inclined to give more than the minimum. And was it clear on the application what's being asked for?
It says, it fills out with, it says 2,100, but then it says 500 is the max.
The ask is 500.
There's a mathematical equation there, but.
Yeah, like what their normal bill would be.
Right.
Versus.
And that's why I filled it out the same way I had in the past, just to give you guys an idea of what the magnitude of the revised bill would be compared to the original, and then what that abatement amount would be. And in this case, the abatement amount would just be over $2,400 as calculated.
I mean, I guess I'd say if somebody's only asking for $500, then we should give them $500.
Well, they can only ask for 500 per the policy. I mean, it's written that way. It's like, it says 2,400 greater than 500 per Section 10 of the abatement policy, but Section 11 of the abatement says, or the Board of Selectmen can override it. So, I mean, just, honestly, I don't want to belabor the issue, but I think we should make a vote and move on, but I'll make a motion to approve a $1,000 abatement of the water bill for 27 Rock Maple Avenue. If we turn that down, then we can vote 500.
All right, second by Jamie. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 Go with the team. Aye, the ayes have it. All right, so Valerie, we've abated your bill. Instead of 500, we've upped it to 1,000. So contact Tim or Gail or Dolores.
Just keep working with Tim. Tim will get it adjusted right and get the number to Gail.
Thank you, everyone. We appreciate that.
Thanks, Valerie.
Thank you, Valerie.
Have a good night.
Hmm?
All right, up next we have, I get to the top of my sheet here. We have a sorry, not another water abatement. We have a goal setting and evaluation for the town manager, discussion and vote. Jamie distributed a spreadsheet on some goals and priorities. And hopefully everyone filled it out.
We had
A few participants.
I did not.
Me? Me and you?
I failed.
I didn't fill it out.
Come on, people.
Apologize.
Would you like to put?
Wasn't because I don't care about
Jamie,
Joe's
do you have the
performance.
list right now? Let's just do it right
Yeah,
now.
let's do it right now.
Because no one's doing their homework.
Yeah.
Joe, do you want to mute Virginia?
Sorry?
I'm going to mute Virginia.
I do have one slight problem in that. I'm not sure how much battery I have left in my computer.
Here, I can pull up a blank copy of it.
There you go.
Do you want me to enable, are you plugged into the meeting?
No. Here, let me just forward it to you real quick here. Folks at home, I apologize. Let me just send something to Joe. I think this is it. See if that goes through.
I had it.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Nope.
That's not it?
No, that's not it.
Oh,
Give me one more try.
I can send.
Do you want to send it, Jamie? If you have the blank? 'Cause I don't think I downloaded. I didn't download the blank.
I mean, I may only have the one with my rankings, but, or your,
Well, did you-
your rankings. Here,
And you sent everybody a blank, right?
yep.
You want to just forward that original email to Joe? Will that work?
One from Friday?
Sure.
Yeah, the one from Friday. At 9 in the morning almost.
I will do that. Dang it. All right, let's see. I think this is it, yeah. Nope. Sorry.
Let's try that and see if that worked.
You got it before me?
I may have. Let's see if I did
I
the right
do
one.
have it here now. It just takes me a little while
Yeah, this should be the right one now.
to locate
What?
it.
This it?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
All right, so while Joe's teeing that up, In no particular order, we have water, data report on renewable energy, second cell tower at public safety building, schools, and some of these have some subheadings under them, Patton Homestead, town hall, regionalization, sidewalks, communication, Brick Gens contract, schooling field lease, Patton Park master plan, MPSC, master plan steering committee, minutes, board binders, developable land, emergency response plans, environmental initiatives at the very bottom. I'll share my rankings, I guess. I had water first, second was cell phone tower, third was schools. I guess I had a tie for third because I didn't put put 2 3s in a town hall. I guess it was tied for third. And then communication was 4. Board binders was 5. Minutes 6. 7 was environmental initiatives. 8 developable land. 9 master plan steering committee, and 10 regionalization. Just for my kind of ideas on it.
Sorry, where'd you have Patton on there?
I had Patton as, I didn't have the Patton Park master plan on any number, but I didn't actually have Patton Homestead on a number either, because when I filled this out over the weekend, I thought we've kind of resolved some of that at this point in time. Whereas when we did this goal setting in May, we had just started that study group.
Yep.
While you're looking at it, let's do just number 1 and 2 and start with there. So my number 1 and 2 was water and second cell phone tower. So I'll give you a minute to look through the list and see if you have something similar or different.
Can I ask you a question about that, though? My understanding is that there is nothing we can do for the cell phone tower. So what is the goal?
The goal is to re-engage with a land lease at the public safety building, either with
Yeah,
Everest.
we own the property.
We own the property, so we re-engage with Everest or another land lease entity and see viability, feasibility of that.
Continued cell phone.
Continued cell
Got
phone.
it.
Yeah, the new one, right, sorry. Not the-
Yeah,
not the
we've
one-
already.
not the one we have.
Yeah, I was like, I thought we were just sitting around.
No,
So
we've already approved it. At town meeting 2014 or 15, we approved 2 sites that were town-owned. One was behind the building here at Town Hall, the other one was at the public safety building.
And is this fiscal or performance year? Like, when are these? Is this by December?
God, I hope not.
I'm trying to, like, what, did we miss the boat on 2022 and we're actually looking forward to 2023? Or are we saying if we prioritize 1 as water, you better hope you already solved the water thing by the 31st?
Right, I guess we have to put some goalposts up here, right? So if we're talking town manager goals and priorities, what's our kind of benchmark or end date? And some of them may vary, but do we want to have, by April elections, something? By summer, July fiscal year end, something? I guess
Well,
we
when does it
should.
make sense for you? If we're gonna try and be regimented and do a real system year after year, when does the date make sense?
So I think if we're talking about water, for instance, right, I think there's four different subcategories here. There's different goals for each of these, right? The complete pre and post treatment, that plant's almost done. It's going to be done here I think it's going to be completed before we get to the end of December. So it'll be done by the end of the calendar year. Alternative water sources, I think we can, say that the report that we did, the swimming report we did has lined us up in a good space to look at either joining up with Salem Beverly or now MWA is even interested in coming north. They haven't determined yet how far wide they want to go, but the talk about regionalizing water up here on the North Shore has gained and that wasn't just us. Senator Tarr's task force has done a lot of that work, but we've been collaborating with them and working with them on it. So that's a longer-term goal. We're not going to solve that by January or by July.
Let me ask the question a different way, because I didn't mean specific. I said in general terms.
Right.
When should these goals be? What is it? Is it what's the cadence for all the goals have to be the same date?
If I can interject a second, I would almost say if we, as a board, determine kind of moving forward, because it's been a bit, for a handful of years, it was pretty much this date, this date, this date was review and goals and yada, yada. And then over the last handful of years, it's gone a little bit more sporadic depending on who's chair and what was going on in town, COVID, et cetera. I would almost, and you guys can debate this and we can figure it out, and Joe can also add in, but I would almost say maybe you start goals after fiscal year starts, and this is just generally, I guess. So you would have elections in April, the board dynamic may change. If you set goals maybe in June or July, and then they go through the whole next fiscal year, or maybe do calendar year, so there's some kind of a regular cadence to how it breaks down, so you don't keep getting behind like we have been with it. I mean, I don't.
So September to September is what I'm hearing.
Well, I was gonna, if I could offer an opinion. You have a new, say, in a given year, you get a new board member or two in April. You use the rest of April to get them up to speed.
Yeah.
May. I think that you really might want to try to set the goals in June.
Yeah.
So that starting July 1st, you'd have July 1st until the next election cycle to basically try and make progress on those goals. Understanding that some of these goals are going to be more longer term. You're not going to have me or anybody else try to solve the water problem in one 9-month period.
Right.
But make progress on the cell tower. Make progress on the Patton Homestead. Those are things we can actually do in a 9-month period.
Yeah, it's not the cadence of when the things get completed, it's the cadence of when the evaluation takes.
Right,
When
right.
the goals are set and the evaluation
Right.
is done.
Right.
Understanding that some things might take 2 months and some things might
Right.
take 8 years.
Right. And I'm trying to remember when we've typically done evaluations in the past. They've usually been in the fall, I think. September, October, that range. So that may be kind of,
I think like September makes sense to evaluate. I don't evaluate in the summertime. You want to evaluate in but I don't know. We'll set and evaluate at the same time. I don't know.
I mean, they're
Or do you
related,
set-
right?
Do you
But
set
they're-
and evaluate, then have a gap between the two? Do you set in June?
I mean,
and
because the
evaluate?
evaluation doesn't have to be, it can be ongoing, right? I mean, a lot of these projects are ongoing. Even if we said, oh, we're gonna have an evaluation tomorrow, but we have
Right, just an
12
evaluation.
things on the list, only 3 of them might be accomplished. And to no fault of Joe's or whatever, things take time or something else comes up. For instance, cell phone tower was on the list for Michael Lombardo when he was here, and now
Joe gets
you were
credit
years
for it.
later and we got Joe getting it done here.
I'm not sure I want credit just yet.
The only thing I would sort of push back on there is like, yes, and like the more specific and measurable the goal, the more urgency that's put against it, which is like,
I agree.
if we say cell tower by Q4 2023, we're gonna see a lot different movement than if we say cell tower by Q2 2023. And if you miss the fact that we say we want 3 viable places by this time, that's fine, but at least you know what the expectation is. Whereas I don't know that like monitoring, assessing is like a measurable goal. Some of them I think you do that, but like, in order to have a review, there have to be goals that are measurable, that you say, these are the things that we collectively expected to happen by this time. Did or did they not happen? Which is not always a negative.
Right. And I think if you put the goalposts on, say, since we're talking about cell phone tower, and you said that, boom, by Q4 at blah, blah. And if it didn't happen, well, why didn't it happen?
Right.
Right? And it could be the planning board didn't issue the special permit
Or
by
you
such
break
and
it
such
down
date, or
into
it's-
smaller pieces of the expectation for that project.
Right.
I think that's what I see here is like, those are kind of big.
Right. And this may be engage in land lease entities by such and such date.
Yeah.
I mean, and I guess I agree with all that. I'm just trying to think of my point of my question was just to decide like the calendar of when we're going to do a review for Joe.
Yeah.
And regardless of what the goal is, year to year, yes, there'll be different benchmarks at different times of the year. And are we doing this yearly? We're doing it every 6 months? Like, when are we checking on these goals? Like, what's our cadence? But I think it's irrelevant of what the specific goals are. More is we need to come up with a cadence because we haven't had one. And it's been, not being regimented has affected Joe's ability to get feedback from us,
So I think we have two kind of deadlines, right? We have a yearly evaluation for Joe.
Right.
And then we have yearly goals.
Right.
And what's, like, to your point, what's the cadence of those? Do they line up in some way, or are they a bit staggered? As, we said, you goal set in June, once new members of the board have been around a little bit. And then do you do your evaluation in October?
I don't know why you just don't do it at the same time. Evaluate goals from last year and set new goals for the following year. I don't know why that can't be the same thing, but I wouldn't have a problem with that. But
It could be, but I'll say that, like, if we did an evaluation in July and we set goals in June for the next year, then say we do a two-person election year, those two people's evaluations are only gonna be a couple of weeks in time. You know, so you run into that issue. That's why I think if you do it a little bit later, the newer members of the board have had some time to
I don't have a problem with that.
interact, if that makes sense to everybody.
Right, then it's set goals, but then 6 months later you evaluate. So then you have a 6-month checking kind of on goals.
Right.
That might make more sense, right? Even though you're not doing the same thing.
Right.
Every 6 months, at least you're focusing on goals and assessment of goals. So set them in
And then we
June,
could even have
evaluate them in.
Right, you could do an evaluation at 6 months, and then at the next 6-month iteration, you'd be kind of almost back to start-ish, and you could have just a town manager kind of report out on, you know, these are the things that were accomplished at that point in time, and then that could help set the next session of goals and continue
Give
the
me some
cycle.
dates.
So are you saying if we set, so a mid-year, if you set goals in June, you would either be doing a year-end review and goal set in June, right? Because it's been a full year.
Right.
Your mid-year review would be in December. So you set in June, you mid-year in December, and then you come back. And in June, you do your year-end review and your goal setting again. Is there, the only downside I'm hearing for that is there's new people on the board. In which case you could say the year-end review is actually in March. So March 30th
Right,
is.
before elections.
Yeah, March 30th is year-end review. There's sort of a sprint zero from March to June when you're like wrapping things up, preparing things, we're doing elections. You do goal setting again in June. You do a November mid-year check-in, and then you have a March 30th year-end review.
I don't hate that.
Jamie?
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay, so
You
the
wanna put your 2 cents in?
I'd just like us to get on a regular cadence of it.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's the biggest issue we have. We
Gotta
haven't had a
work,
regular
right?
cadence in a couple of years.
It's got to work. I mean,
Gotta work.
so, I'm sorry, Caroline, that's,
Yeah, so the year-end review by June 1. Goal setting happens on or around the 15th of June, right? So you take time to assess the goals that you were reviewed on. We take a couple of weeks. We do goal setting in June. You then do a mid-review, either October, November, probably November. And then your year-end review is on or around March 30th.
By the end of March.
Yeah, by the end of March.
We have fun. Therefore, you get 5 people who can evaluate you who have all.
Who have been there.
Right.
yeah.
for a whole year.
And we've done in the past, and that's been a bit of the issue with evaluations from our last town manager and Joe's current kind of cycle, is that sometimes we've done reviews at that, like somebody's been on the board for like a month or 2 months. And, you know, they can give input, but it's not the historical kind of data and et cetera, because they're still kind of getting up to speed to stuff. So I think this would be a better cadence for folks.
So can I ask what that would mean for this year and this tool that you're putting together?
Great question.
So I think some of these.
We do it in March.
Yeah, we would need to look at these goals and say, what are the benchmarks by March that we're looking at on these goals?
Yeah.
And then what are sort of the areas of watch that, to your point, like you're constantly managing multiple projects just to make sure that they're still simmering. But then some of these big ones, like the water stuff that's summer, fall 2023, those would be high priority goals for June goal setting.
Yeah.
And would probably have deadlines in the mid-year review, like October, November, right? Based on, I'm just reading where it says summer, fall 2023.
Yeah.
You mute Virginia again. Mute Virginia again.
So for the purposes of this meeting, I think what we're saying is, what is our priorities for Joe through the end of March?
Yep.
Like through Q1?
Yep.
That
So we need to
I think that's,
So, we're good on the calendar?
think we're good on the calendar. Now it's kind of plugging priorities in for
I
that
would-
calendar date
I
in
would
March.
agree with one is water for me as well, too.
Okay.
Two, I was different than yours,
What was your 2?
town hall.
Okay.
And then when you say water, what do you want to see by end of March?
I mean, the question, right, because it's 4 different things, but it's not really 4 different things.
Well, I mean, there's the
It's a
The
development
treatment
of,
pl-
I
the
mean, right,
treatment
right, there's this,
plan,
it's,
obviously.
how is it measurable? Because it's a development, because it's gonna change. What we know now, we're not gonna know in 2 months. We're gonna know different things in 2 or 3 months, so we know today. It's a,
Well, we can, even the first one we can put right on there, complete the pre-post treatment plan. We know that's getting close to fruition, so that can be a goal that he can accomplish by March, for sure.
Okay.
completed or develop a plan that's on target. The schedule goes beyond March, and at least we don't know we're
Yeah.
on schedule.
So by March 30th, we want a complete or developed, like, written plan,
Yeah.
strategic plan for,
Right.
what is it?
Develop and implement a plan, right? To get for completion
Of what?
of the,
It's
Well,
going to be built
Not
by
the
the end of this
tre-
month.
Not the treatment plan.
Not the treatment plant, that's done, or.
Yeah, that's
close
pretty
to
much done. So I would
If you
say,
were asking for a strategic plan on how to move to regional water,
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
okay, that makes sense.
that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So you want a strategic plan for how we get off our water? What was that? Regionalization of water.
Yeah.
and there's a couple different options, which is good.
Right, so that, then you can plug in North Coastal Basin, the Manchester plant, and Salem Beverly Water Supply, and
There's
And
options.
MWRA.
Iroa or
Well,
whatever.
and some of that strategic plan may be dismissing some of those as not viable options.
Exactly.
What we've learned just since I've been here, I don't think the North Coastal Basin, or really even the Manchester plant, are viable options going forward.
Right.
So it sounds to me like we want the strategic plan for the regionalization of water, but you're also going to have implementation recommendations that will lead to the next steps for the June goals.
Okay,
I'm writing this down too.
good, please do. Share with me when you're done.
Yeah.
'Cause I'm trying to track the conversation at the same time.
Okay, and are those align with the goals that you have for water as well? Y'all are
Yeah.
aligned in your
Yeah.
prioritization for water?
Yeah. Hi, Duke.
Hi, Duke Seaver, Essex Street. I've been waiting 60 years or more to have a sidewalk built in front of my house from Essex Street to School Street, because everybody with baby carriages are walking on a 4-inch white line, and the cars are doing 40, 50 miles an hour by the house.
Yeah.
It's got to be pushed up somewhere.
That's a near and dear to Bill Olson's heart right
Same
there.
page with you,
You're-
Duke.
You're talking his language, Duke.
Agreed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Cell tower was number, no,
So Tower
Town
was number
Hall.
2 for me, Town Hall was number 2 for Bill. Tom, Jamie, or Caroline, did you have
I had cell
another?
tower, 2.
Did you, anybody have a different one from water? Okay. Jamie, I'm sorry, you
You had one
interrupted.
for water?
I had one for water, yeah.
What were you saying about 2? I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
I had cell tower.
Cell tower.
And what, and it was number 3 for you?
Cell phone tower was number 2 for me. Number 3 was Town Hall for me.
Oh, right. And what specifically by June would you like to see on the cell tower? If this isn't helpful, y'all can tell me to be quiet. I'm just-
No, this is helpful.
You can develop options for a third site.
Yeah.
Develop,
Second site, and maybe, I would even add, we've looked at it before, but it's been a while. Look at our town-owned properties and see if there's a viable option within those. I don't think there is, but at least kind of go through the motions again and check.
And what format does that take? Do we want like a map with thingies and price options and pros and cons, or is it like a quick chat in the hall that says, I really like that field over yonder?
I think there's kind of two things there. One is the development of engaging with someone in the process at the public safety building. So reaching out to Everest or other entities to engage them to develop the public safety building site.
To engage them to develop.
And then the kind of follow-up on that is if that entity would work with the town to find a third option within town-owned properties.
So we're developing options for a second site, but we want to prioritize the existing entities as a first option, and then.
Right, like we've had Everest do is it Everest now? Everest, do a site behind the town hall, and they've also somewhat expressed interest in the public safety building, so then if they're the kind of best option.
I mean, right, we want to run the viability of that site to ground, see if it's
Yep.
a viable site. If not, we need to identify another viable site, not just a site we like, but a site that's actually viable.
Right, and I would also add to that, and I don't know how much control Joe has over this, or if he can even engage in the process, but once Verizon is live behind the building here, how do we go about enticing other carriers to get on the tower?
Okay.
Oh, that's a good one.
So, expand carriers
Spots for
at
two other,
the-
right? But they
Yeah,
get
we've got
lower.
2 other spots or
They
3
get
other
lower.
spots on that tower that can be filled.
But they get lower.
But they get lower, right? And we need probably, I would guess, Everest or Verizon is going to do some type of an RF map once they get it up to see the coverage gaps and see the area that we've got. I would even add to that a report out on coverage maps.
Report out on coverage maps?
Yeah, and that can become right from Everest or Verizon. That's a fairly low-hanging fruit. And then that will kind of entice other carriers to say, oh, there's a deficit here. We can put T-Mobile or Sprint or AT, whatever entity on there.
Okay, so for those who have cell phone tower, that specific ask for Joe is to develop options for a second site? Is it second or third?
I would
To run the PSP site to ground and either a second site or a third site in addition to
Okay.
PSP.
Reaching out to Everest to engage them to develop the public safety site. We'd like to give them priority for this additional, but if not, look at the other options, namely town-owned properties.
Right, put out another RFP or
Expand the carriers in the existing towers and a report out on coverage maps. Does that feel fair for cell tower?
Be the third site, right?
Third site, okay.
Because we have one on Asbury.
Okay,
Or Highland.
What are Caroline and Tom's top 2?
I'm just going with the group.
They,
You just going with the group?
they don't know. They didn't do their homework.
Right,
Thanks
so
for
2,
calling
we're
out,
going
Jamie.
2 with cell phone?
And then who had third? There was town hall, who had a
Schools.
school, what
He had
was,
schools.
I had schools and town hall. I misnumbered, but they're kind of both priority
what
for
was your
me.
third?
My third, I believe, my batteries did, I think was actually the communication.
If I was.
Or,
in-
no, actually it might have been regionalization and then communication.
What kind of regionalization? Did you have anything ideas in
I mean,
particular?
all I did was the regionalization that we talked about, that's on this list if we scroll down a little bit.
Okay.
Utilizing programs and services from.
So there wasn't,
So,
I don't know that, yeah, so there's nothing,
the comments.
Feels like a great June goal planning specificity one, so I'm just gonna say
yeah,
prioritize for June goal setting.
excellent.
I like that. I mean, because we are pretty topped out on regionalization for the most part.
Well, and I think the next step of that conversation is much bigger than a lot of people are comfortable with right now.
I agree.
What specifically, Bill, would you say for March 3rd you would want to see for schools?
Or town hall, which I think was your number.
I had town hall.
Oh, sorry, town hall, I apologize.
I mean, the whole idea of March is just before the April meeting, right? So it's
Right.
it's a plan we can vote on.
So
And it gets us within our, without having to ask for more money, the $5 million plan, right?
And technically that means
I
this
think we're
goal is
talking
like,
6 or 6.5, but yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, not the $8 million plan.
Right.
so that's technically something we'd have to have done by like February 1st.
Correct, right? Not done by then, but that's when we evaluated.
That's in order to get it on the warrant, right?
Right.
It has to be, okay. So a plan we can take to town meeting that does not require asking for additional funds.
Can
Well, no,
I
no.
change that a little bit?
Yeah, I'm just,
I would say additional tax revenue to the general fund, or to the, basically no increase to the tax base. What am I trying to say here? Basically, we would.
No debt exclusion.
No debt exclusion, right. So we're looking at money we already have somewhere in free cash or ARPA or wherever we can find it.
Is it a plan that we take to town meeting or a plan that we are certain will pass?
So that's kind of, when you brought that up, that's kind of the debate. I've had some conversation with several people that we've got some big things coming up, fields and school buildings and stuff like that. And I don't want to run into the same debate of schools versus town hall. I think even if we got out in front of it, it's still gonna be, this money can be spent on the kids instead of town hall, which it doesn't work that way in municipal finance, but people don't quite understand that a lot. So my worry is if we bring something to the Springtown meeting and the turf field is up as well, people are gonna not vote for the town hall and say the turf field should get the money, which is apples and oranges, really. So my concern is another flop at town meeting. But we've been supported town meeting before for town hall. I mean, that's kind of a debate we have to have at some point coming up before we set the warrant, whether we want to have town hall on Springtown meeting or fall town meeting.
The stuff that we've decided to do gets us to vitally to win.
We've got the architects doing a new plan right now, kind of, right?
They're
So-
working on a new plan right now. We should be able, if the board decides that you want to go forward for Springtown meeting, we can probably have an article ready in time for Springtown meeting. But you have to make a decision, a determination amongst yourselves as to whether or not, and with input, I imagine, from FinCom, as to whether or not you think that question would be successful at ATM if there's other, depending what else is going to be on the warrant. And we don't know the full, for sure, what the school's putting forward at the warrant yet.
We're gonna know at some point.
We'll know.
We're going to know next week.
We'll know next week and for sure in January when they ratify
we
the
can
budget
make-
at their school committee meeting.
I just feel like unless that number is optically reduced by like a huge amount, people will see it as a reprisal. So are we talking about the number could be small? Like,
We're cutting about 3 million out of it.
What failed was the two debt exclusion
Yep.
votes at the ballot. And that was for a project that was approaching $9 million.
yep.
And this project now is approaching $6.5 million. So there's a lot of the things that are going to be left out of this plan. But it will take care of the building envelope, secure the building.
Yep.
It will bring up it will take care of all code issues. It'll have fire suppression, and it'll have ADA compliance. And you'll have some other minor building improvements, but not necessarily on the scale that we were talking
We're
about with the original
not gonna
plan.
rebuild the theater on the second floor.
Right. I'm just wondering,
Well,
like, how do you make this
maybe.
about like iterative must-haves versus like rejuvenating town hall, which is kind of how it was like positioned before.
This is basically keeping the doors open.
Right.
Save town hall.
This is a
Save the
save
bell
town
tower.
hall. Save the bell tower, right?
Okay, so that actually
I
would,
think in line, I know Joe's mentioned this before, but we need to, it's public, it's PR, it's a campaign. And it's something that we didn't do successful last time, so we have to learn from that. So do we bring in someone to help us with that sort of messaging as part of the plan? I think we do need to. I don't know how we do that and how we fund it, but
I also think we need to recognize that this will pull town hall up to the actual number 1 priority for Q1, not the number 3 priority. So we just have to make sure that at the exclusion of perhaps the things we've outlined for water and cell tower, and it could all get done, but I don't think you can say that this has the most pressing deadline with the most
Right.
cross coordination, and it's the 3rd priority. So,
That's viewing, I mean, if you view priority just as chronological, yes.
no, I don't always view priority as chronological, no. In this particular instance, I would.
Okay, anyway.
Just because the deadline.
It's in the top 3, that's good enough.
so wait, is it in the top 3? Or schools in the top?
Right, so.
Schools is a little different, I think. I mean,
What does it say for schools?
collaborate on operating costs, reduce campuses, feasibility study, update regional agreement. So,
It's the piece of jerky we can't chew.
right, so some of it's really not in our hands.
Yes, right.
Right?
That's why it needs to go further down the list, because he can,
Yeah, I think for me, schools, the only one that's viable there is update the regional agreement. And that's really conversations between myself and school committee chair and the Wenham Board of Selectmen chair. I mean, Joe can help with that a bit, but that's really a larger dialogue that kind of has to happen with all three entities.
It's going to be those three primary elected boards that have to make the decision to reopen the agreement.
Yeah.
Once you get them to do it, I can hire the attorneys and work with the schools to get the agreement updated, but I can't open the agreement, so.
It does feel like it's a big town priority. It doesn't feel like it's your priority. though.
Right, and that's kind of what I'm getting at there,
Yeah.
is I don't know what, you know, if anything, the collaborate on operating costs could be a small part of it. I think the school's still doing their own maintenance and DPW stuff for the most part. Are they still doing that? Are we doing any work for them, mowing lawns and stuff like that?
No, we're not. I think Wenham DPW may be doing some groundskeeping for them, but the Hamilton, I think we might help out with some of the plowing in the
winter time.
Yeah, that's about the extent of it.
I might suggest that you put schools in that sort of sprint zero between March and June, that we try to put together some sort of like comprehensive plan that we can prioritize against in June. To say like, what are those, that laundry list of things that we want to do?
Right.
Because, for example, reopening the regional agreement takes of 2 villages, actually, but a large group of people.
Right. In the updating the regional agreement, we can put that on us. And we can talk about that process and engage Wenham. I've had conversations with the school committee chair, and we've actually made some forward movement on it, that their attorney has looked through the regional agreement, and the school committee spent some money on looking at how it relates to MGL and trying to get it up to speed. I don't know what the results are of that yet. I have to reach out again, but they have started some groundwork on that. So there's been some baby steps on that, but there hasn't been an agreement to open the agreement.
Yep.
We're just reviewing it at this point. So maybe that's something we put on our agenda in the upcoming months here, instead of on Joe's agenda, because I don't think he can really influence that process at all. And the reduced campuses, the feasibility study, that's happening as we speak, or going to be happening as we speak. And the only thing collaborating on operating costs, I would almost just change it as, I would almost put it in the communication category, as Joe talks with Eric Tracy, the superintendent, and Wenham about the school budget. You know, there's this open dialogue we've been having. I think that would go under communication, really. Even though it's a school topic, it's more under communication in my mind.
So speaking of communication, if we were going to have things that we'd like to see.
Right. And I think that was my number 4 and Jamie's number 2 or 3, I think.
3.
So we had website outreach and follow-up on flash survey stuff.
What does that mean? Say that again.
We had the subtopics.
All he was doing was reading.
Yeah, I'm just
those
reading the
3
spreadsheet there. We had website outreach and follow-up on flash surveys.
So we completed an upgrade of the website, which I think most people are happy with. Improving outreach is an ongoing thing. Flash Vote was a software program that we were using for a short time, but we didn't really use it.
Yeah, it didn't
often
really.
enough. And I mean,
I don't think we
I think
quite
we
got
could
enough.
probably look for a different way to get community input then.
Was it like an exit survey?
It was, we put together a cohort of people that agreed to always be surveyed. So when we had things we wanted to get public feedback, you'd have the same 200, 240 people in town that would agree to always answer the surveys when we sent them. We only used it 2 or 3 times, and we didn't quite get to the 240, like, kind of number in the cohort. I think we were around 180. So I don't know how effective it was for us.
How difficult is it to get site analytics? Like, how many visits are we getting? Where are they going? What are they clicking on? What are the most downloaded
We
items
get a
on our
monthly
site?
report?
I'm sure we can get it from Sterling. I mean,
Why don't we do that? Why don't we get at least a monthly report and share that with us? Just because I am curious of what's getting the most hits and what's getting traffic.
So maybe if we say by the end of March. We just want sort of like a light audit of like website usage, like how many people follow the town Facebook page, how many people
Yeah.
are receiving communications, just so we can see where we are.
I think that's good, because we can also put in how many people are getting the COA's newsletter,
Yep.
how many people are signed up for the kind of agendas and code red kind of stuff, the town manager report, how many people are getting that.
Code red.
And that will help us and Joe understand what's getting the most kind of bang for our buck, as they say.
Because then I think we can do things like, do we want to run a Facebook campaign to get more people to follow the town page so that we can,
Right, how many people are following our Instagram, how many people
Where do
are
we
following our
drive?
Facebook page? Just a general tracking.
okay. And then I think then we push the actual,
Then that would push outreach, right?
well, then
Little bit.
then outreach comes out of the communication audit. We then make goals for June for what our increased outreach.
Right. Say we have
Goals are.
5 Instagram followers and we want to have 100 by
Right.
X date.
Or we decide Instagram doesn't work for our town and we shut it down.
Right, right,
Instagram?
I don't know, I have no idea what works and doesn't work.
right.
I'd be more interested in shutting down Twitter, but that's me.
Okay, so then I'm gonna push that to the June column to say communication becomes a June. The specific, this is just the audit, and then we'll do some goals around increasing outreach and communication in our June meeting.
So you want the audit by March, and then goals?
And then, yeah, based on that, we'll come up with some more specific goals for how we increase outreach for June. Were we just focusing on the top 3 or 4? Or do we want to go through other?
Well, I guess back to communication, we've pretty much just got kind of website stuff, social media stuff. Is there any communication that we would want to see tracked, improved, less of, more of, within town hall employees or select board or other boards and committees, as far as unsiloing different groups? Is there anything there that needs to be tracked or?
Honestly, I think unearthing those insights should be part of what's, like, I think the answer is probably yes, but we don't know, which is like, how can we over the next 4 months figure out, like, where are there redundancies, where are there opportunities, like, do we want to do we want to send it on email to town hall and say, like, do you feel like you're getting important information in a timely manner?
Right.
Yes or no?
Right.
Because if we have that feedback, then I think we can come up, to your point, with a plan that says,
And maybe there's even, like, since we have this flash survey thing, which you're probably still paying for the service, we could flash survey, no?
I don't think we are, no.
We could flash survey employees.
I don't think we need to do flash, so the way the flash vote worked was, like I said, you developed the survey and it would go to the cohort.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So that wouldn't work there, but we could certainly do a Survey Monkey or some other doodle poll or something for employees to get that done. And we have at least 2 departments that have Survey Monkey accounts, so we can do those for employees in town if we wanted to.
I think you bring up a good point, which is that I hear almost binary feedback where people either have like, oh my gosh, our town hall is so communicative and I hear back right away and I can't, and then you have people that are like, I can't ever get a hold of anyone, it's crickets all the time, nobody cares. And I think the truth lies definitely somewhere in the middle. So like maybe just part of this is figuring out like, what are those channels? Like if you call, if you email, like what is the expectation? Should you hear back from somebody within 24 hours or not? Do they? I have no idea.
Right.
Because then again, we can set a precedent to say, if you email us, we'll get back to you in 2 to 4 weeks.
Right. We had talked about a while ago, this is kind of apples and oranges here, but we talked about a ticketing system. Some DPWs and other towns have a ticketing system. You're driving down Cutler Road and it's like, holy cow, my car just fell in the middle of this hole. You do a little text to the DPW, hey, huge pothole on Cutler Road. Then it kind of flags in DPW. Someone goes out and checks on it and says whether it's a viable thing or not, and then DPW puts it on their priority list, however. So it's kind of almost like a see it, report it kind of a thing.
See, click it, see, click it.
Yeah, see, click it, whatever.
Yeah,
blah, blah.
is that the one in Salem? We had one in Salem, we were
Yeah,
always reporting the needles.
See Click Fix is a national website, web-based system. There are a couple of others. Tim and I have talked about it a number of times in the past. There are a couple that Tim was looking at. We just hadn't pulled the trigger on one yet, so.
So
We
what
can-
are our current communication protocols, cadences,
Or usage it.
expectations?
Trigger, I'll just say, we didn't press go on anything else.
Yeah.
Better. Find myself better here.
Okay.
Tell me when you're ready for the next. item,
Yeah,
okay?
well, we have 4 meaty ones, so I think it's sort of a question of like, when we have things that we're sort of pushing the bulk of the prioritization to June, but are there other sort of like the pots that are simmering on the stove that we just want to be top of mind, but they're not necessarily,
And we have some things that are, they're maybe either low-hanging fruit or they're, I don't think they have to be in a overarching, like you said, some of them are bigger fish to fry. You know, like Patton Park Master Plan, that's ongoing, and I think we have add flagpole or something like that, and that would be part of that master plan that's ongoing, so.
yep.
Master Plan Steering Committee, we've just basically somewhat reinvented that group.
With more involvement from TM and select board, so
Yeah.
it was.
Yep, and we've done that.
The,
Minutes policy,
I think of these as more like tasks.
yeah,
Like there's a couple of tasks that need to be.
yeah.
yeah.
Even the developable land, that goes back to the kind of cell phone tower stuff and our idea with
Yeah.
green burials and other spaces.
Well, environmental initiatives,
Yeah.
you know, the HEIC's off and running,
Yeah,
well, soon to be off and running, so.
Okay, wait, so if we have a category that's just like monitor and support, it's the Master Plan Steering Committee, the Patton Park Master Plan. Is there anything else in there?
you could even put in the Patton Homestead in that group too.
Patton Homestead, the Patton Park Master Plan.
And the way up at the top, Caroline, is the data report on renewable energy.
Yep.
That kind of goes back down to the last one, is environmental initiatives. I think those are tied together.
And where do those fall? Are those,
With HEIC now, I think. and-
Yeah, I would say with HEIC, once that group gets going, that's something that we could task.
so I would even say like one of the priority tasks for Q1 would be to help,
Town manager facilitate
yeah,
involvement
help
in that.
onboard the HEIC
Yeah,
to ensure their success.
and to Bill's and Duke's sidewalks, question mark there. Bill had talked about it, and I can't remember, we had a street assessment a while ago, and Tim was maybe gonna do some groundwork on sidewalk assessment and other kind of, user
I mean, what?
friendly, whatever.
Assessment and prioritize based on street.
Right.
And then look at grants and opportunities and,
And then we do have an existing,
yeah.
I think I forget, Essex Street, we had some engineering done for sidewalk years ago, but the cost was extravagant, and it
hasn't gone down.
And it hasn't gone down. And there was an issue, I think, with some of the easements or right-of-ways where the sidewalk had to cross a street somewhere on Essex Street, if I'm remembering correctly. So maybe having Joe facilitate Tim in finding some feasibility with sidewalk cataloging or something like that. And that could be even an ongoing thing. Like I wouldn't want Tim to just send his whole DPW out for like a week and just map sidewalks. I would say, oh, if you're doing work in this neighborhood, you might as well map the sidewalk if you're in that neighborhood.
I wouldn't want that to be all factored in, just do the piece that's important right now.
Well, Duke, with all due respect, the piece that's important to you won't necessarily be important to somebody over in downtown or somebody over on Marianne Drive or somebody out on if the town's going to approach sidewalks, we're going to have to do it in a thoughtful way and figure out how to prioritize them.
Yeah, and I think part of it,
I do disagree with what you said, because that's a bad safety thing.
yeah, and I think that's a factor. I think that the factors that have to kind of all add up are safety and the age of it. Like we had a road study done 3 years ago now, probably, or 4, where they assessed all of our roads. So now we have a cadence on when to kind of, what condition they're in and when to start resurfacing and et cetera, those roads. And I think the same needs to be done with sidewalks. And in that study as well would be where we don't have sidewalks that should be, such as Essex Street or other places like that people feel strongly about. And Essex Street's one of those spots that most people kind of ask about.
Yeah.
And downtown, having a downtown cohesive surface. You know, right now we've got multiple different substrates there and at different levels. A lot of our sidewalks are tripping hazards and stuff like that. Or we have issues with National Grid where I know, you know, my son rides his bike to school now and then out to the high school, and there's literally telephone poles in the middle of the sidewalk. And Bay Road was, you know, 4 inches over from that. So if you had a wheelchair or even just the handlebars of your bicycle to get by the telephone pole, you're in trouble and you got to go out on the road.
The Bay Road would be responsibility of the state. We can't do that one.
We applied for shared streets. I know we had shared streets.
We did apply for, at one point in time, we thought about applying for complete streets. We did some with our, I think, bicycle lanes and stuff downtown, but at one point we had engaged a little bit with Wenham in connecting us and Wenham as far as kind of complete streets, walkability and stuff like that. But I don't think it went very far.
We applied for, the first year after we had Complete Streets Plan and Committee put in place and adopted by the town select board, we applied for grants, but we didn't rate well against others that were applying. And our priority, I think, at the time was the intersection of Asbury and Highland Street.
Yeah.
And shortening up some of those crossing patterns and things. With new development that's going on out at Upper Asbury, that kind of raises the profile of wanting to get some kind of sidewalk from that area down to the intersection and improve the intersection there as well.
Right, and we improved a bunch of our
and there's a need
egress for
downtown,
accessibility and stuff in the downtown blocks where there was curbs and now there's ramps.
Yeah, we did a good job on Willow from Railroad to Asbury, but there's still other parts of the downtown that, and I think we've redone most of the sidewalk along Linden out towards Highland.
Yeah. We did a good stretch of that.
We still got a lot of sidewalk downtown that's existing that needs to be updated. I have a resident that emails Tim and I regularly from an area close to Wenham. I don't want to say the street, but he's got a sidewalk that's got a lot of trip hazards in it. And then those are existing sidewalks that need to be repaired. And then you have folks like Duke that want new sidewalks in other places in town. So
it's a balance between this and that.
Okay, can I review this with y'all real fast?
Yes.
Okay, so I broke it down into 3 sections. The first are the priorities that we have, which is the select board expects measurable delivered progress against these goals as outlined. And that's the water we talked about. I'm not gonna go through this, but the bulleted list that I'll send to you guys. The cell tower, town hall, and then the communication audit.
Okay.
And then we have a section which is the select board expects to be apprised and assured of reasonable ongoing progress. And those are tasks, including the minutes, the onboarding of the HIC, and the sidewalk safety viability stuff. And then monitoring and supporting the the MPSC, the Patton Homestead, Patton Park Master Plan.
HEIC.
HIC, what did I say?
Did you say that?
I had that in the tasks.
Okay.
But I agree that it should be in the lower one. And then the third section is select board expects to create measurable goals after mid-year, so no immediate action. It's regionalization, which is additional opportunities for regionalization as prioritized between 1 and 5 years. We'll talk about that in June. The school relationship, which includes buildings, operational costs, and the regional agreement. And then an increase or improvement to outreach and communication. We'll have more measurable goals that we'll discuss in June. Does that seem?
What do you think, folks?
The conversation that we're having here.
Anything else anybody wants to add?
The data report on renewable energy, you had that under comms?
No, I think we had it we were having that go with the HEIC stuff at the bottom
Okay,
of the page.
right.
Yeah.
Yep.
So the one thing I know, at least Sean and I both had somewhat high, is the board binder
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
I think that could be a task, and I think it...
Yeah, I think that could be a task, and I think we
I
could,
think Lori already started working on that, because we started talking about it right after the discussion in June. I may not be finished, but I'll talk to Lori.
and the board binder, maybe it could be Joe facilitating that, obviously, in the rollout of it, and having town staff work to accomplish it, because it's really just kind of giving every board all their information. It's not like you have to write policies and do anything, it's just collecting it, right?
Centralizing
And putting it in a big PDF file that's accessible to people.
So I'm adding the Bricken contract to tasks, and then the do or delegation of the binder.
Yep.
What about I'm sorry if I blank, but Gordon Conwell, whatever you want to call it, study, like, where does that go on this list? That's a pretty important thing.
That's likely to be done, for better or worse, by April town meeting or very shortly thereafter. The goal of that group is to try to have recommendation for annual town meeting if we can work with the planning board to get a new
Pretty
zoning
important
adopted.
piece of-
If it doesn't, if we have to leak a little bit more time, you might be asking for a special town meeting and
So make a recommendation to town hall at town meeting on what we recommend should be done with
How about,
property.
how about a
Or zoning.
report and/or article or something? Because, I mean,
Or
you're gonna have planning board working on some
I
zoning.
don't think it can be article, but at least a recommendation. I don't think you want to.
Right, no, I'm saying getting ready for the article, but
a recommendation,
not writing
I'd
the
say.
article.
So that's basically a presentation at town meeting that doesn't have a vote?
I think that's a minimum barrier. You could exceed that if you wanted to
So
have something. I don't think we're going to have something to vote on by.
the contract we have with Gordon Conwell and the two consultants is that the consultants are going to try to finish their work before the end of January so that the planning board can try to develop a zoning article that would be on the annual town meeting warrant. If time leaks, we may wind up asking for a special town meeting, maybe as soon as June, to handle one item. That would be to try to help Gordon Conwell either zone or not zone.
But that's not within your control.
Because some of it's in our control, some of it's not.
Not the article, though.
Not the article. The article would be up to the planning board, but.
Right, we've already
we're making
engaged
the best
counsel for
effort.
zoning.
Yeah.
So just put together a plan and make recommendations.
But we want you, Joe, to ensure that there is an article prepared for town meeting? Is that the ask?
I'm asking for a presentation and recommendation, but if.
From Joe or from the planning board?
From Joe, or from us, from the select board.
From the select board, got it, okay, sorry.
That Joe pushes us in that, whether it's Joe or, it doesn't matter, but,
Right, and I guess he could give us a presentation.
yeah.
I mean, there will be, regardless, some presentation at either ATM or a special shortly after, but I think it goes back in a bit of communication too, because once we do all these findings on Gordon Conwell and zoning, we have to, select board, planning board, Joe, get the word out about public hearings and vetting the zoning changes and the viability of that property for whatever it looks like it's gonna be. So,
When he's standing before the tribunal
yep,
on March 30th,
yep.
what is the thing that
You're
we're
really going to do this
asking?
the night before town meeting?
Absolutely. Yeah. What is the thing that we're saying defines success for this?
What do you think? I mean, we have our kind of pie in the sky with the process that's going on now. What do you think is?
So I think that legitimately, we will have a consultant's recommendation on what are viable reuses of that property. And the select board can espouse that you can read those reports and determine well before March whether you want to present this, or you want to have me present, or you have the consultants present to the town meeting what the reuses of the property are and what could be, and why they'd be in the town's best interest. Whether or not the zoning gets done is going to be a function of whether or not the planning board engages.
Okay, so we would like Joe to be prepared to make a presentation at town meeting.
Of what the selectmen recommend for, to happen, and we can then convince the planning board to do it. Be our job, right? I mean, we can't make them do anything, but we can.
Yeah, we suggest, yeah.
Can suggest it.
Between the consultants we've hired and we've hired specific legal counsel from KP Law that they're comfortable with to help with the drafting of a zoning article. So we're trying to give them all the resources they need to be able to get that done.
Where are you putting this one? Is that going in like priority number 6?
I have it
Like
as
5 or something.
the highest priority task,
Yeah.
but I can move it up.
Yeah. And I would say even and it's kind of a little semantics here. You're talking about Joe presenting a town meeting. I would say if it's not Joe, it would be the consultant. Most likely it would be the consultants. A presentation.
So ensure a presentation
Okay with me?
Yeah.
is made.
With the conclusion.
Now, whether or not it's aligned with the planning board's perspective?
I mean, I think it kind of has to be. I think, let's say, there's kind of two, I guess, goalposts here with this consultant in the planning board. The first one, which is what we're shooting for, is annual town meeting, a zoning change. But there's a possibility that we don't get to that goal. We have the report, but the planning board hasn't finished this process, and we have another special town meeting sometime in June, maybe.
People will love
But April town meeting could be our kind of, here's what's going on, here's our presentation, please come in June to vote on this one article. You know, is there, maybe we even say, if it looks like the runway doesn't end in April town meeting, that maybe there's another night that's an open community event to share the results with the consultants? So at least there's a, you know, we're talking public engagement, communication. I don't know how
So the hope is socialization.
Yeah.
The question, town meeting could be one place
Town
to
meeting could be a
socialize.
mechanism, yeah.
But if the ask is actually that Joe socialize the recommendations for GCTS in anticipation of a vote, I think I would put that as the item, like, you tell us how we get all these people to. Now, because if there's any chance that there will be a vote at town meeting, the presentation at town meeting is too late.
Correct.
So it's really before then, how do you socialize?
But I think that would largely be through the planning board process of having the zoning article developed and drafted and debated and voted on by the planning board. But we've got it built into the contract that the consultants will work with us to have a public, you know, dissemination of their information, whether that be at town meeting or at some other time of our choosing, along with Gordon Conwell. So we could do that. In any case, even if the zoning article is going to go forward, I think we still need to have it because we need the town meeting voters to understand why we're asking them to vote for it. And if we're not going to have it ready for April 1st, we probably still want to have some kind of presentation at town meeting because ultimately we're going to come back to town meeting and ask for the zoning change. So the most important constituency to socialize this with is town meeting.
Okay. Because the thought is there won't be a vote there.
Well, we're hoping. We're driving that train to that destination.
I'm trying to be
but-
optimistic without being pie-eyed.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, because it does seem as though the planning board may not be motivated to.
I mean, I don't want to speak to their motivation. I'm just saying it's a short window, and
Yeah.
the planning board likes to have some time
Even if they were
to consider and deliver
motivated
it.
or
So
not motivated, it's still a tight
it's still a tight window. We're gonna hand them the reports from the consultant, and hopefully the start of a development agreement between Gordon Conwell and the town in mid-January, and ask them to, in a month and a half,
turnaround of the
turn
bylaw.
around, have public hearings, have, you know, community input, and then put it on the warrant, you know.
Got another
Quit.
Concom issue on our hands.
Right. Exactly. We'll be kind of asking them to do exactly what we just slowed the Conservation Commission down on, so, which doesn't seem fair, but the difference is that in this case, we have a ticking clock because Gordon Conwell can and will decide to sell when they want to sell. and they've engaged with us through town meeting. The longer we push off, the more potential there is for them to change their mind and go in a different direction.
Okay. So the highest priority is ensuring the socialization of the GCTS recommendations to the town at large, which may include, but is not limited to, a presentation at town meeting, increased public participation in the meetings and hearings, and other outreach as determined. Okay.
So, would you want to share that with the rest of the select board and have a vote on this at your next meeting on the 19th?
Yeah, I'm just kind of looking through the list to see if there's anything else on here that we really missed. No, I think we pretty much got it. Go ahead, Jamie.
And not to put them on the spot, but Maureen, you guys were working on that other part of the evaluation, right?
Yeah, I put together a draft, I sent over to Bill for review. We're gonna work on it. Should have it for next meeting.
Good answer.
Is it
19th.
worth sending that to me to overlay in any capacity with this?
Yeah, probably. I mean,
Why don't, can I make a suggestion? Why don't you two, after you meet and hash out between the two of you, then send us a draft of it?
Yeah.
And then we can hopefully look at it and comment it
Can I
before the next meeting.
from a process standpoint, can I suggest that you give it to Sean, and then Sean will share it
Yeah, let's do
individually
that.
with each of the members?
Yeah.
Because you don't want to have it all going back
Yeah,
and forth
no,
and
good
commenting
point.
on it. So you subcommittee, finish your work, send it to the chair. He'll disseminate to the individual members for,
Yeah, that's what I meant to say anyway.
What he said.
What he said. All right, so when you two finish it, send it to me in draft form. I'll circulate it.
What time evaluate me?
Exactly. All right, anything else on goals or et cetera? All right, while Caroline is wrapping that up, any new business? No. Perfect. Don't forget, there's a couple things to sign here. If anybody wants to entertain a motion to adjourn, I would take it.
I will not only entertain one, I will make that motion to adjourn.
I love that, Jamie. Anybody second that?
Second.
Second by Tom. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it. Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight on Zoom and in person. Thanks, Duke. Thanks, Virginia.
thanks, Duke.
You're welcome.